Welcome to NTD Good Morning.
Here are today's top stories. Hurricane Melissa is set to make landfall today in Jamaica. Forecasters say it could be the largest storm on record to hit the island as Jamaicans evacuate to shelters.
President Trump in Japan today, speaking to U.S. troops stationed near Tokyo. And the president signs a major rare earths deal with his Japanese counterpart.
More than 10,000 U.S. troops are now positioned in the Caribbean. President Trump will brief lawmakers on future military actions to combat narco-terrorists organizations in that region.
House Speaker Mike Johnson is urging Democrats to come to the table to end the government shutdown. And Democrats face an internal battle as a key union now breaks ranks.
Passive investing is traditionally thought of as a safe bet, but with recent shifts in the markets, new concerns are rising. We have expert advice for you.
This is NTD Good Morning, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here are Stephanie Cox and Carrie Dunst.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good to have you with us this Tuesday, October 28th. In today's top news, Jamaica, bracing for what could be its largest storm on record. Hurricane Melissa, a powerful Category 5 hurricane, packing wind speeds of up to 175 miles per hour. And it's making landfall today.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a real big one. Everybody's bracing for it. Authorities, they've already blamed the storm for 7 deaths across the Caribbean, and the National Hurricane Center has issued warnings in the region.
We're expecting destructive winds in the eye wall of Melissa as it makes landfall and moves across the island. So we could have complete damage, destruction of shelters, homes, and buildings in the path of that eye wall, not just along the coast, but in areas of high terrain across the central part of the island as the center of Melissa moves across the island during the day on Tuesday.
Mandatory evacuations are underway across Jamaica, where buses are ferrying residents to nearly 900 shelters as the island braces for impact. The U.S. Air Force's Hurricane Hunters flew multiple passes through Melissa yesterday to collect critical weather data for the National Hurricane Center.
And as the storm crosses over Jamaica, other countries will also be in its path in the Caribbean. Over in eastern Cuba, more than 500,000 people have been evacuated from coastal and mountainous areas, with schools and transport shut down ahead of this big storm.
President Trump continues his visit in Japan. He met yesterday with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi at the Royal Palace in Tokyo. The two leaders discussed security, trade, and regional stability.
NTD's Daniel Monahan reports on the key takeaways, including the signing of new agreements for a strengthened partnership.
Music filled the ceremonial hall at Akasaka Palace as Trump and Takaichi attended the welcoming ceremony. The leaders signed an accord pledging to usher in a new golden age for the U.S.-Japan alliance. The framework focuses on economic security, supply chain resilience, and shared prosperity. They also signed a landmark agreement on strategic investments, rare earths, and critical minerals, calling for joint investment in mining and processing, and new financial tools to back private sector projects. Trump says he has always had a great love and respect for Japan.
This will be a relationship that will be stronger than ever before, and I look forward to working with you.
Takaichi told Trump she values his work for global peace.
In such a short period of time, the world has become more peaceful. I highly value President Trump's unwavering commitment to world peace and stability. I myself have been deeply impressed and inspired by you.
In the meeting, Trump said relations of both countries will be stronger than ever. Trump told Takaichi that former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was a great friend of his.
He spoke so well of you, even before we knew what was going to happen and your ascension. He spoke so well of you long before we met, and I'm not surprised to see that you are now the Prime Minister, and he would be very happy to know that, and I congratulate you on behalf of the United States of America.
Takaichi gifted President Trump a golf bag signed by pro golfer Hideki Matsuyama and former Prime Minister Abe's putter.
This woman.
Trump and Takaichi visited the U.S. naval base in Yokosuka near Tokyo today, which is home to the aircraft carrier USS George Washington. The ship is part of the U.S. military's powerful presence in the region.
This is a special group of patriots, champions, winners. You are winners. Oh, I'd love to have your job.
Trump called the men and women of the U.S. Navy the finest sailors on the seas.
I'm thrilled to be here among thousands of proud American patriots aboard the 100,000 tons, that's a lot of tonnage, forward deployed symbol of American might, power, and prestige, the legendary USS George Washington. This is some ship.
War Secretary Pete Hegseth also spoke on board the ship, praising Trump for putting America first and criticizing previous administrations for DEI programs.
I look at you as a fellow American who bleeds red. Our strength is not our diversity, our strength is our common purpose.
President Trump today also met with Japanese families whose loved ones were abducted by North Korea decades ago.
It continues onward. They've been looking for so many years, so long. And I see these beautiful faces. They're so beautiful. Look at the beautiful faces, every one of them.
Trump said he would discuss the issue with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
We have not done anything. We've been so busy, we really haven't. But we'll be discussing it.
The Japanese government says 17 of its citizens were abducted in the late 1970s and 80s, 5 of whom were returned in 2002. North Korea has said 8 are dead and that another 4 never entered the country. Trump will meet business leaders in Tokyo before traveling to South Korea tomorrow. Trump will hold talks there with Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping. The president says he hopes to seal a trade deal between the world's 2 biggest economies. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
And after that speech to the military, to the Navy, Trump sat down with business leaders in Tokyo. He secured over $500 billion of Japanese investment into the U.S. Of course, the tariff was reduced from 25% to 15%, and basically there with all of the business leaders touting the partnership that goes even beyond business to regional security.
Absolutely. And on that topic, President Trump is heading to a high-stakes meeting with Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping Thursday in Korea.
That's right. The markets are rallying on both sides near a deal to boost trade and pause China's rare earth restrictions that have threatened the global supply chain. And with this trade framework nearly finalized between Secretary Treasury Scott Bessent and his Chinese counterparts, the stage is really set now for the first meeting between Trump and China's Xi Jinping since Trump's first term. Joining us to learn more is the host of the show, China Insider, David Zhang. David, thank you so much for joining us this morning with Trump over there in Japan, soon to go to Korea. Let's start with this trip to Japan and how that plays into the relationship with China.
Yeah, well, the top partnership with U.S.-Japan relations, it's really about countering China. And the reason is because Japan's proximity to mainland China. And if anything goes in Southeast Asia or in the Taiwan Strait, Japan is the front line for the United States' global sort of projection of power. And so in that sense, if China decides to do anything aggressive in the region, Japan is there. If China decides to do anything aggressive in the economic space, Japan is there. So this partnership, the close relationship between President Trump and Shinzo Abe, now President Takaichi, is also something to very much look forward to in the next, I would say, half a decade or even a decade to come in terms of where things go. But I think the ultimate point here is that the United States is back with an iron-blooded ally in terms of how strong the bonds are. And that's going to be very important to counter something like the CCP.
Yeah, very interesting. And everybody now looking forward to this meeting between Trump and Xi. There's the stuff that most people know and talk about, such as the rare earths and the soybean exports, but that's not why we have China Insider host here. We want to understand the juicier stuff. So what are you looking for in this meeting between Trump and Xi?
The first one is I want to see how the tones come out. There seems to be a shift from the CCP to be much more of a friendlier tone, less of this wolf warrior diplomacy type of talk. We even had the Chinese premier say that the U.S.-China relations is like a marriage. So this sudden shift that I'm seeing after their fourth plenum meeting tells me that China is going through something domestically. It's in a state of turmoil that it wants to make concessions for the sake of preserving the CCP itself, because the ultimate goal of the Chinese Communist Party is always about preserving the party, and it will do so by pretending to be something, such as in this case, that it's willing to work with the United States. And I think another point that I want to see is just exactly how many of those promises that Treasury Secretary Bessent said that China did go through, or at least promise on paper, would actually be finalized, and whether or not they even keep those promises within the next 6 months.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I think one of the reasons why people come to NTD is they really want to get a much more nuanced understanding of what's really happening in China. Has Xi lost power and influence in China? And if so, what does that mean for this meeting between Trump and Xi?
Just based on the recent news that 9 generals of his, which he put into place to prepare for the Taiwan invasion, along with a more recent piece that his top former secretary in the military has been even removed, demoted twice now. I think that Xi has lost control of the military. What does that mean? Well, basically, even though he still holds the titles, you can see that a lot of the personnel changes, a lot of even the tones that he wants to project on the world stage has changed since we found out he's lost power. And at the end of the day, even if right now it seems like that he still holds the titles, it is the real decision makings and the styles in which he approaches diplomacy and how the CCP wants itself to be presented in the next, I would say, days or even weeks, that we really see those nuanced differences, which to me, I see it now as that Xi has lost control of at least the military and perhaps even some decision-making powers inside the party.
Within America and any westernized democracy, you can transparently see who is waning and who is rising. Can you help us understand and our audience understand what these factions are and what that means for Xi? Is he now a lame duck? Does he control other aspects of the country?
Look, Harry, there's really, I would say, 4 different factions, you can call them that. I see the PLA, the Chinese military, as sort of a slightly independent faction now controlled by Vice Chair Zhang Youxia. And I think he is in perhaps the state of holding on to the full military power. The second one is obviously Xi Jinping's own faction, some of the people that he's developed over the years being in places like Fujian province. Then you also have sort of the establishment, I would say the seniority-based faction, which is retired elders or former political officials. And then last but not least, you have sort of what I call the blood gang, people with blood on their hands, such as the Jiang faction, who's been involved in things like forced organ harvesting or a lot of corruption over the years, which has actually hollowed out China and its people's finances and so whatnot to be pocketed into their own hands. And so I see those 4 factions being the central sort of power players inside the CCP right now.
Wow, that's very interesting that there are 4 factions. I just kind of took it as you got Xi and anybody who's trying to clear him out, but everybody maybe creating alliances and things are shifting and leverage is being held. You brought up something very interesting, this concept of a blood gang. Trump says he intends to bring up Jimmy Lai's case, of course, the imprisoned media tycoon billionaire who's imprisoned because of his role in Hong Kong democracy. But Trump did not mention Falun Gong, Uyghurs, and of course, potentially the most egregious ethical crime that I can think of, this concept of killing people for their organs. Some say that this could potentially be the Achilles heel, because once this is truly talked about openly in every country and it's well known, that it's just too egregious to offer any legitimacy to the Communist Party. So Trump has met with Uyghurs and Falun Gong practitioners before. He does know about this. Do you expect that to break open at some point, or is that just too hot of a button to push in this particular meeting?
Yeah, no, I totally agree that it is the most egregious crimes of our time. And I think the problem right now is that the CCP has linked itself to forced organ harvesting as the existential problem or the fundamental issue. Because if this forced organ harvesting is revealed publicly, no country would dare to do any business or even engage with the CCP. And in that sense, the party itself will collapse because of just the sheer nature of it. This will be worse than some of the stuff that we saw during the Second World War. And so for them to exist, the idea is that forced organ harvesting is made public cannot happen. And so in this sense, even if the president is wanting to do a lot on the human rights front. The CCP will use its full financial and influence powers around the world, such as say, you know what, if you're going to talk to us about the forced organ harvesting issue, maybe we will not sign things like the rare earth, or we will not engage with you on trade talks. They will do that in order to preserve their own party's survival. And so in that sense, you know, it is the fundamental issue. And I think it is something that's very sensitive. Whether they talk about it, they might even do so in private to raise these issues, or even use as one of the card in hand. But I don't think this is something that is ready to go public right now.
Such a fascinating illustration of what's actually at play. You have four factions all fighting against each other, but they're all united for survival. And this forced organ harvesting is the thing that they must continue to suppress. Really appreciate you joining us and sharing all these insights. David Zhang, China Insider. Thank you.
The U.S. has amassed a significant military presence in the Caribbean Sea. It's part of the Trump administration's effort to combat narco-terrorist organizations operating in the region. Our Washington correspondent, Luis Martinez, has the latest developments and what we can expect in the days to come.
Thus far, the Trump administration has authorized 9 strikes against cartels, both in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. Some 43 designated narco-terrorists have been killed trying to smuggle over 100,000 lethal doses of illegal drugs.
Se están inventando. The people of the United States know it. They are fabricating a new eternal war. They promised they would never again get involved in a war, and they are fabricating a war that we will avoid. How? By mobilizing the people of South America.
Nicolás Maduro, an indicted narco-terrorist, has a $50 million bounty on his head. He is accused of leading the cartel of the Suns and aiding and abetting other terrorist organizations infiltrate the United States, like Tren de Aragua and the Lebanese terrorist group Hezbollah.
If I was Maduro, I'd head to Russia or China right now.
Because?
His days are numbered. Something's going to happen. Whether it's internal or external, I think something's going to happen.
The U.S. has an amphibious readiness group with 4,000 Marines. The world's largest and most advanced aircraft carrier group and its entire air wing, a fast attack nuclear submarine, 4 destroyers, a special forces ship, and a surveillance plane in the region.
President Trump told me yesterday that he plans to brief members of Congress when he gets back from Asia about future potential military operations against Venezuela and Colombia. So there will be a congressional briefing about a potential expanding from the sea to the land.
Venezuelan opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado has backed the U.S. strikes on foreign terrorist organizations and has thanked President Trump for his efforts in dismantling Maduro's narco-terrorist network that helped finance his regime.
The assets are there to do everything up to and including decapitation of government. Now, has a decision been made? That I don't know. But it looks increasingly like some action may take place.
Since Nicolás Maduro took power in Venezuela back in 2013, some 8 million Venezuelans have fled the country, causing the largest refugee crisis in the Americas in history. Close to 1 million Venezuelans have migrated to the United States. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Great report there from Luis. And still to come, House Speaker Mike Johnson urges Democrats to help end the government shutdown.
And internal strife in the Democratic coalition as a key union breaks ranks. We're going to have that and more. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. The government shutdown is now entering day 28. More than 5,500 flights have been delayed as air traffic controllers stay home from work.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says Republicans have ideas to fix health care, but they need bipartisan cooperation to move it forward.
We're throwing good money at a bad, broken system, and so it needs real reforms. The reason it was never appropriate or never possible to be resolved on a simple CR, stopgap funding measure, is because it's very complicated to fix. But Republicans have a long list of ideas. And I am not going to go in a back room with Chuck Schumer, like he keeps demanding, with 4 people and make this decision. I will not do it. It's not appropriate. It's not right. It's too complicated for that.
Meanwhile, the Department of Agriculture has warned that SNAP food benefits could soon lapse. Speaker Johnson says that contingency funds can't legally be tapped for food stamps because it's a congressionally appropriated, finite source of money set aside for emergencies.
Some Democrats have accused Republicans of not wanting to negotiate, saying the two sides could probably come up with a solution quickly if they did. However, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said negotiations are pointless because he believes that Democrats have dug in on their position.
And a key federal workers union has called on Democrats to support the GOP-backed funding bill and reopen the government. President of the American Federation of Government Employees, which represents more than 800,000 federal employees, says both parties have made their point.
He called on them to pass a clean continuing resolution, or a CR, and end the shutdown so workers can get back on the job with full pay and back pay. The union's plea marks the first major crack in Democratic unity, prompting internal debate as the shutdown drags into a fourth week.
And the Virginia House of Delegates has taken the first step toward a possible mid-decade redistricting plan.
Yeah, this comes amid a widening national debate over control of Congress.
Lawmakers in Virginia voted yesterday to adopt a resolution that clears a path towards a possible redistricting amendment. The vote is just a first step and does not enact new maps.
Republicans opposed the move, with the GOP delegate describing the efforts as a political power grab, while Democrats say it's about fair representation and protecting voter rights.
The procedural vote comes as President Trump pushes redistricting efforts in several Republican-led states to solidify the party's House majority.
And over in Indiana, Republican Governor Mike Braun has called a special legislative session next week to consider new congressional maps in his state.
A California political advisor has admitted to secretly working for the Chinese Communist Party. Former Arcadia campaign advisor Sun Yaoning, who also goes by Mike Sun, pleaded guilty to acting as an unregistered foreign agent for China from 2022 to 24. Prosecutors say Sun operated a so-called news website aimed at the Chinese American community, but it was actually pushing pro-CCP propaganda. Court documents show Sun also reported to officials at China's consulate in Los Angeles. He admitted to seeking $80,000 from Beijing to stage a pro-China demonstration in Washington, D.C. He also admitted to writing a report on his activities in support of the CCP. He wrote that overseas anti-China forces have been ceaseless. Taiwan independence and Falun Gong have been active for a long time. Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a spiritual discipline based on the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. The group has been persecuted by the Chinese regime since 1999. Sun faces up to 10 years in prison. Google is denying reports of a massive Gmail security breach that allegedly exposed millions of user passwords. The company said the claims circulating online are false and that Gmail's defenses remain strong. Australian cybersecurity expert Troy Hunt first suggested last Friday that 183 million email accounts were compromised through malware known as info-stealers. Google says the misunderstanding stems from databases that track stolen credentials from various hacks, not a new Gmail-specific attack. The tech giant urged users to turn on two-factor authentication and adopt passkeys as a safer alternative to passwords. Google also said Gmail, which has about 2.5 billion daily users, routinely helps users reset passwords and resecure accounts when it finds large batches of exposed credentials. And as Halloween approaches, parents are getting ready to take their kids out and a night of trick-or-treating and holiday fun. But with all that fun comes safety first. Officers from the Warren Police Department issued a safety warning to remind parents and guardians to always double-check their child's candy bag. This is after detectives discovered a stash of chips, snacks, and candy during a search warrant, which upon closer examination were revealed to contain THC, the active ingredient in marijuana.
The packaging of these products were made to closely resemble well-known treats, which could mistakenly or even intentionally end up in your kid's big candy haul. So look out for that.
Still to come, passive investing, traditionally thought of as a safe bet, but recent shifts in the market are bringing new concerns.
Coming up shortly, we'll be speaking with an investment advisor. Stay tuned. He's got some great tips. We'll be right back.
And as Election Day approaches, we take a look at the breakdown on the New York City mayoral race, where the three candidates are standing and what the polls are saying. All that after this.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. I'm Carrie Dunst. If you're just joining us now, here are some of this morning's top headlines. President Trump continues his Asia tour in Japan. He has signed major deals on critical minerals, rare earths, and economic security with Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. Trump also met with Japanese families whose loved ones were abducted by North Korea decades ago and spoke to U.S. sailors near Tokyo. The next stop, South Korea, where he'll meet Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping for high-stake talks on trade, rare earth exports, fentanyl, Russian oil, and many other things. And the U.S. has amassed a significant military presence in the Caribbean Sea as part of an effort to combat narco-terrorist organizations operating in the region. So far, the Trump administration has carried out 9 strikes against cartels, both in the Caribbean as well as the Eastern Pacific. Around 43 designated narco-terrorists have been killed trying to smuggle more than 100,000 lethal doses of drugs. And Jamaica is bracing for what could be its most powerful storm on record. Hurricane Melissa, now a Category 5 system, packing winds up to 175 miles an hour, is making landfall today. Officials have already blamed the storm for 7 deaths across the Caribbean, and the storm is expected to hit Cuba next, where more than 500,000 people have been evacuated from coastal and mountainous areas. And the government shutdown is now in day 28. House Speaker Mike Johnson says Republicans have a plan to fix health care, but they need bipartisan cooperation to move it forward. He's also warning that contingency funds can't be used to keep food assistance running past November 1st. That's Saturday. And in major break, top federal workers union is urging Democrats to back the GOP bill to reopen the government. Those are this morning's top headlines. With that, Steph, over to you.
And turning now to the New York City mayoral race, which has gained a lot of interest in recent weeks as Election Day approaches. NTD's Paul Graney joined Dave Martin at the Data Hub to break down the 3-man race. Take a look.
We're joined at the Data Hub by election data analyst Dave Martin. Dave, great to see you.
And great to see you, Paul.
Dave, the banner race this year is the New York City mayoral race. A crowded field even after Adams dropped out. What are polls telling us right now?
Well, let's take a look at one. Let's take a look at a recent one just from earlier this month. This is a Gotham AAR people of likely voters earlier this month. Here we go. Choice for mayor of New York City, #1 in the lead, Zohran Mamdani at 43%. Now, right behind him, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo coming in at 29%. Now, Cuomo was a Democrat running as an independent after Mamdani beat him in the June Democrat primary. In third place, Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate, at 19.5%. And then we've got 8.5% undecided or other voters. Now, if we rewind 4 years to the 2021 race for mayor, here we go.
Wow.
Current mayor Eric Adams won this, getting 67.5%, 2/3 of the vote here. Curtis Sliwa came in at second at 28%. Now, Adams, though, he was running as a re-election. He was an independent, but he dropped out about a month ago. He was actually polling behind Curtis Sliwa in 4th place. So he dropped out. So now we just have a 3-man race here.
But Dave, this is significant. 68, give or take, to 27. But Eric Adams is a much different candidate than the frontrunner Zohran Mamdani. There are many people, he's a Democratic Socialist. There are many people calling for either Sliwa or Cuomo to drop out of the race in order to prevent Mamdani from winning. What would happen if either Sliwa or Cuomo dropped out?
Well, that's a very good question, Paul. Let's actually take a look, because clearly they are taking votes from each other in this poll. This is the same poll here. This is the Gotham poll, Gotham AAR people of likely voters. If Andrew Cuomo dropped out, all of a sudden you'd see a Zohran Mamdani. He gets about a 3-point bump here, up to about 47% if Cuomo drops out. But the real winner here is going to be Curtis Sliwa. He gets up to 32%. That's a 12-point bump if Cuomo drops out. And actually, the undecided actually gets the biggest jump here, up to 22%. There's a 14-point bump right here. Now, if you look at these numbers, you say, all right, well, it is mathematically possible then for Sliwa, if he gets a majority of these undecideds, that he can possibly overtake Mamdani. But a closer look at this 22% shows that about 74%, about 3/4 of them are actually Democrats. So it seems highly unlikely that they would actually vote for a Republican. Now, if we look at the inverse, what if Sliwa dropped out here? New York City choice for mayor. Zohran Mamdani will give
closer.
Yeah, much closer. Mamdani only goes up 1 point if Sliwa comes out. Now, Cuomo, though, is the big winner in this case.
And I'm going to point out, that's within the margin of error, Dave. That's within the margin of error.
You got it exactly right, just within. He goes up, what, 14 points here? I'm sorry, 12 points. Just to 3.9% behind here. There. Undecideds is about a 6-point jump. And yes, as you pointed out, he is just within the margin of error right here. So it's very clear Cuomo and Sliwa are definitely taking votes from each other.
Well, there are calls for this to be the final race. Sliwa says he's not going to do it. Looking at him, he's probably not going to do it, but this is interesting. Now, does anything from the presidential race last year, any indication on how Trump performed and how the sentiment towards Republicans or more towards conservative values may affect this race coming up next week?
Yeah, I mean, that generally is a good indicator. If you look last year, Kamala Harris took 55, she took New York State winning 55%, but specifically in New York City, if you look here, these are the 5 boroughs of New York City added up. She took 69% of the vote, while Trump took 30. Harris took 4 of the 5 boroughs there, with Staten Island the only one voting for Trump. No surprise, though, largely Democratic city would vote for Kamala Harris there. So that's one indicator, anyway, from the last year, the presidential results.
It's a blue city, Dave.
It's a blue city.
There's no way around it. You're going to be here all week, right?
I'm going to be here all week, Paul.
That's great.
And Election Day 2025 is coming up. It's just a week away. NTD's Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer will bring you our live special coverage of all the biggest races from, of course, the New York mayoral election to the governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia.
Tune in on Tuesday, November 4th at 7 p.m. to get the latest election results with live analysis from our data reporters and our on-the-ground teams. That's Tuesday, November 4th, starting 7 p.m. only here on NTD. Don't miss it. Now over to finance. Passive investing, traditionally thought of as a safe bet, but recent shifts in the markets are bringing new concerns.
Joining us today to talk about it is John Grace. He's the founder of Investors Advantage Corp. John, thanks so much for joining us today. When you think about the non-institutional investor, the doctor, the retail investor,
right?
You think of this sort of passive investing, this buy and hold strategy, maybe blue chips, maybe an index fund of the S&P 500. But that's actually maybe being called into question. I want to get your views on that.
Well, it's called into question for good reason, okay? Let's just recognize that investors have been not through 1 but 2 50% losses in the same decade. Now, that was during a time, 2000, again 2008, when people were making contributions to their 401k or their retirement accounts. That was actually a blessing, right? If prices go down, it's kind of like the water goes out at the beach and you're able to get more seashells and collect them and let the water come in, you're good. But now those same people are having to do what? If these are traditional retirement accounts, they're having to take withdrawals. And the IRS requires that there's something called required minimum distributions. So if you have $1 million now and you're 73 this year, your withdrawal rate has to be set. It is set at 3.77%. And the withdrawal rate goes up every year for the rest of your life. Now, you tell me how you're going to feel when you have to take the withdrawals and now the account, you wake up and it's what was $1 million is now 500,000, and next year the withdrawal rate goes up a little bit. Is this the way you want to try to live? And you're trying to live to age 100, okay? So
a blessing of modern technology, right?
Thank you very much. That's a new goal, all right? So where I think the securities industry has not treated investors well is we tell everybody you have to live with the losses. The truth, that's not the truth. And so what we should be showing these people is how to limit the losses. So if you're looking at 08 and the market's off 37 and your cherished ETF or mutual funds off over 40%, you'd probably be pleased if your account was off less than 20%, because all you need is 25% to get back to even. When we get to the 30s and the 40s, now you may need a Hail Mary pass just to get back in the game. So we want to make sure that investors know that there are additional ways to limit the losses, but you have to set forth that goal. You have to find the folks who think like that, and we'll show you the ways where you can see the evidence that, and in fact, you want to identify what specifically number can you live with. Is it 10? Is it 20? What kind of loss is okay with you? You can change your mind. And then hopefully you can build a portfolio that performs within your parameters. That way you have some idea what to expect.
So, John, let's dig into your advice for active planning
Yes.
Around this, with all this in mind.
Starting with recognizing after a series of questions, what kind of loss can you live with? Now let's take your portfolio and work it backwards to see that, in fact, this is a referral. Her account was off 70% in 2008. Who wants to do that again? So now we can see, okay, this is, let's say I can live with 12. My account's been off 70. I don't want to do that again. So what steps do we take? We use active management strategies. Remember the movie Karate Kid, Wax On, Wax Off? In 2008, you wanted to wax off, out of stocks into cash. Don't leave the money on the Titanic, okay? So maybe your account started like most, 5% cash, 95% invested, but finished 2008, 100%, 50% cash. So if we use real numbers and your account's down less than 20% in 2008, because we went to cash, we waxed off, and then starting in 2009, March 9th, we come back down to the 5% cash level. If you got a loss of 20 and a gain of 2009 of 25, you're whole. The passive investments took almost 5 years to get back to even. And again, that's assuming no withdrawals. So number one is to look at how you can install active management strategies in advance before the dam breaks. And then number two, include alternative investments in the portfolio, things other than residential real estate, bonds and stocks and traditional asset classes. And what's interesting about that, the alternative investments for many retail investors is relatively new, but the endowments and the foundations and the institutions have been in this space in a big way for 50, 60 years. And their consistency has been very strong. Yale endowment over the last 10 years, from what I can see, is about 9.5%. That's a pretty good return, but very consistent. That's what they're after.
Consistency, that's the elusive part, isn't it?
That's right.
Now, I want to get your take on this, John. We're in an age of information overload. Some call it analysis paralysis. Even if you have a dashboard, you might need 4 or 5 dashboards to collect all the information. Passive investors don't really want any of that. They just want to know they're making 10% and go on to their grandkids and the other things in their life.
Yes.
So how should people track their money?
It's a very good question. To your point, Carrie, the first thing that we need to do is put a plan in place, okay? Let's just notice that over the last 10 years or so, I'm calling it the orgy of everything, okay? I mean, I don't care where you threw the dart, in the dark, it blew up, right? Whether it's crypto or gold or your house or the houses and the bonds and the stocks, no matter where you place the money, you look brilliant because it's only done what? Gone up in value, and I mean pretty significantly. But we're not prepared for the bottom to fall out, and that's the whole question. We don't just want to sit and let that account turn upside down as we're trying to live to 100. So we've got to make sure we hire the folks who, as I say, think like this, because not everyone does. We've all been taught that we should just set it and forget it, but that's looking backwards. Let's look at it this way. Let's suppose that right around the corner, Great Depression 2 shows up. Nobody's looking forward to that. No one's making that prediction. But if we go back and look at the past in Great Depression 1, Hoover took office in March of 1929. The Depression started playing just 7 months later. Okay, and so when we look at it again, what we find is that the losses for the Dow at that time was like 87%. And the industry says, it always comes back. And you might ask, how long did it take? And the answer is 25 years, assuming what? You did not withdraw a share. You did not redeem a share from stocks to cash. Okay, that's a long time. And nobody who doesn't need some money in 25 years. All right. So we don't want to go through that again. So we should be learning from the past so that in the event it's deja vu all over again, it doesn't mean it's deja vu all over again for us.
Well, these are all great tips. Such an interesting conversation. It feels like it's totally new territory, but as you rightly point out, history does kind of repeat itself.
It does rhyme,
so
at least.
It's great advice. John Grace, Investors Advantage Corp, thanks for joining us.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thank you. And And still to come, the Los Angeles Dodgers take home Game 3 after playing a record-tying 18 innings. Freddie Freeman ending the 6.5-hour-long game with a home run against the Toronto Blue Jays. That and more after this. Welcome back. It was an incredible Game 3 of the World Series last night, was it not, Carrie?
It truly was historic. The LA Dodgers, they pulled off, it was just a 6-5 victory. It doesn't sound that special over the Blue Jays, but it was a game-ending home run in the 18th inning. We're talking 9 innings is a normal game. So they essentially played 2 games to get to a victor.
Yeah, incredible. Now, Freddie Freeman had the game-winning home run, and superstar Shohei Ohtani also hit 2 homers. 1 in the 3rd and 1 in the 7th inning.
Now, the 18-inning game tied the longest in World Series history. That was back in 2018, also with the Dodgers, but that time they faced the Boston Red Sox.
Last night's 6-hour, 39-minute game was the second longest World Series game by duration.
After 3 games, now the Dodgers lead 2-1 in the best-of-7 series, and game form stays in LA tonight. And Ohtani, the double threat, he also obviously a slugger, but he pitches. He's going to oppose Toronto's right-hander Shane Bieber tonight.
Wow, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, really is. I mean, when you saw the end of the game, you thought they won the World Series. They all ran out and they jumped on each other. Such a decisive, to go up 2-1 and then be at home. It really is a bit of a momentum swing in their favor. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure Dave Martin will have a lot to say. I'm looking forward to his analysis.
All right. And next up, the dream of flying cars may finally be taking shape. Not in a sci-fi movie, but in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, this thing is for real now. A California startup says it's ready to deliver the world's first street-legal flying car. Calif Aeronautics founder and CEO Jimmy Duchovny spoke with the Epoch Times about turning fiction into flight. Here's that.
For Jim Duchovny, the dream of flight began long before Calif Aeronautics took off. Duchovny says he and Calif's co-founders grew up reading science fiction. The works of Jules Verne, Isaac Asimov, and Ray Bradbury loomed large in their minds. But they were also inspired by some very real science. Duchovny says all their fathers were engineers or scientists.
So the inspiration is actually taking a science fiction, taking something which is fictional and made up, and marrying it with the hard science.
Duchovny launched Calif Aeronautics in 2015. The same year, Marty McFly and Doc Brown visit in Back to the Future Part 2, flying their famous DeLorean. Duchovny calls that coincidence fitting, saying 2015 was the year that multiple technologies finally caught up with the dream.
Around 2015, multiple technology matured. Without any of them, that would not be possible. First and foremost, it's a battery technology, electric battery technology, right? Rapid prototyping, composite materials, especially software. It's a lot of drone technologies, microprocessing.
The company's first model, called the Model A, looks like a sleek electric car, but hides 8 propellers for vertical lift. Duchovny says that makes it different from so-called flying taxis.
It's automotive, uses automotive infrastructure, uses automotive business model. So it is the car which can also fly. It's not an airplane with wheels which can drive.
Duchovny says safety is at the heart of Calif's design. The vehicle includes multiple redundant systems, autonomous features, and even a full-body parachute.
To us, safety is not number 1. To us, safety is number 0. The only reason we're going to be successful or not successful is safety.
If everything goes right, Calif plans to start production on its first consumer flying cars by late 2025 or early 2026. Prices will start around $300,000, though Duchovny says later models could drop below $30,000 as production scales up.
We're not making the cars for the rich, otherwise it doesn't solve the initial problem. The problem of traffic on the ground, it's not going to be solved only if people who can afford $300,000 cars would be in the air.
Reservations are open. For $150, you can join the waitlist or pay more for priority delivery. Duchovny says early buyers help fund the technology that could save everyone time.
I don't know how much you and I or anybody in this room is going to live, I don't know, 80 years, 100 years or so. 1 year of that life, you're going to spend in traffic, standing there. If we can give it back to people, that's going to impact people's lives.
Calif Aeronautics is still seeking investors as it moves toward production. But if the company stays on track, the world's first flying car could lift off in the not-too-distant future.
Great report there from California Insider. The Statue of Liberty has always been a symbol of freedom and democracy, as well as an important landmark.
And you might think the Statue of Liberty's birthday is July 4th, but it's not. It's today, Steph.
Ah, there you go. Today marks 139 years since the last rivet of Lady Liberty was installed. That's after it arrived in more than 200 packing cases from France.
And on that day, President Grover Cleveland and numerous French and American dignitaries dedicated the monument. The 151-foot statue was a gift meant to commemorate the alliance with France during the American Revolution.
Since then, she's stood in New York Harbor welcoming new immigrants to the U.S. Though the famous sonnet, starting with "Give me your tired, your poor," wasn't added until 1903. Piece of history there.
Yeah, what better symbol of New York and America than Lady Liberty? So beautiful.
Sure
you know, there was a time where every fifth grade class locally went. I can remember as a young boy going and climbing up the stairs, and if you go, you'll never forget it. And just something that you can't emphasize enough. If you come to New York, you really have to go check out the Statue of Liberty.
Such an iconic site. Well, if you have any feedback on the show or you have something you'd like to see us cover, make sure you send us an email at goodmorning@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you.
We sure would. And for round-the-clock original news coverage, join us at ntd.com or go to our NTD app. I'm Carrie Dunst. Thanks for joining.
I'm Stephanie Cox. See you soon.